Whitehouse, you are recognized.
If you read the appellate court decision regarding the stay, one of the things I think you'll note is the power of the language that was used by those judges. So I'm disappointed, I guess, yet again in Chief Justice Roberts' decision. I think we often read decisions which say the decision was misguided, the decision was erroneous, the decision was clearly erroneous, the decision was wrong, the decision stood on inadequate facts. In this case, the appellate court said the decision was unconscionable. You don't see that very much. So my questions will be to you, Mr. Crosswell. I think you're the most experienced criminal prosecutor in the panel. And one of the things that we've seen has been the Trump MAGA crowd parroting the notion that there was weaponization of the Department of Justice against Mr. Trump, which is obviously a narrative that you would like to deploy if your leader is in fact a criminal, was convicted in certain places, was indicted in others, and had the prosecutive team say, hey, we had a good case here when it was closed down. So faced with all that evidence, obviously the thing you want to say is weaponization, fake news, all the usual denials. So I'm going to take a minute and compare what happened in a recent case, the one that was referred to about the unlawful effort to try to seize climate funds. And because the veto period had passed by about 2 years, to cook up analysis that would have allowed them to seize the funds had to cook up a crime that would give them the ability to say, well, you know, while we're investigating this crime, we need to seize the funds. So that's the backdrop. And in the course of that, the first thing that happened is that the political appointee was told by his career staff that there was no evidence of any crime and they couldn't proceed. Do you recall any time in any of the Trump federal cases where a political appointee was told by the career staff that they had no case?
Senator, I've been doing the job for 10 years, and I can tell you that I have never, ever seen anyone, myself or anyone else, be directed to prosecute or drop a case based on politics.
Yeah.
It just does not. It does not.
And in this case, the woman who was at the head of the office who told the political appointee that he had no case was forced to resign as her penalty for not going forward. Nothing like that ever happened in any of the Trump investigations that I can recall. Do you have any recollection of any career folks being fired for refusing to go forward with a case that had no merit?
Senator, my supervisors have always expected me to do the right thing. I think something that people need to understand about prosecutors is we're unique in the sense that our job is not to win our case, it's to do justice. And so every supervisor I've ever had would demand nothing less than me to do the right thing for justice. And if that means dismissing a case, that's what you would do.
Then let me just go forward a little bit more, because after that, what happened is that the political appointee went forward with a pleading that no career attorney would sign. The only signature on it was the political appointee. Did you recall that ever happening in any of the Trump cases?
In my personal experience, I've never had a situation where I was asked to do something that, except for the Eric Adams case, that was the first time I was asked to sign something that
unusual to go forward with a pleading where no career attorney will sign for the Department of Justice, correct? Only with a political appointee signature.
Yes, Senator.
Yes, it is. And then in the Trump cases, I don't recall anyone ever getting shot down, any of the prosecutive team, when they went for an order. And in this case, when the political appointee went for the order and went to the magistrate judge, he got shut down. When I was a U.S. attorney, if we got shot down for an order by one of our district judges, that would have been like, stop, figure out what went wrong. This is a never event. Let's figure this out so it doesn't happen. Do you recall that any of the Trump orders were ever shot down by a judge, or every time that prosecution team went to a court for an order, they were successful?
Senator, not sure about which order. I would say that it would be if I went to a court and was shot down for probable cause, that's happened, but you try to avoid that.
Yeah, you try very hard to avoid it. And after that's happened, do you ever go to another district to try to shop the same case where the judge had found that there was no basis to proceed?
It's never come up in my career, Senator. If I did, I would certainly tell the next judge that the last one found no probable cause, and that probably would not bode well.
And then I don't believe in the Trump cases any prosecutor ever made public statements outside of the pleadings about the culpability or wrong of the subject of the investigation. And yet in this case, both the political appointee and the agency chief who was engaged made public derogatory comments, false allegations, it seems, of fraud, defamatory per se. What are the concerns of the Department of Justice when political appointees make statements about the potential guilt or culpability of an uncharged person?
Senator, as you're aware, we conduct grand jury investigations in secret for a reason, because if we can't substantiate the case against someone, we close it without the public ever knowing, and that's to protect the American people.
And in this matter, the last thing that happened was that the agency had been going forward with its own case under the president's executive order, shifted to the fraud argument to try to improve its argument before the federal judge, not a magistrate judge, the U.S. District Court judge. And the U.S. District Court judge said, guys, there's no evidence here. You've shown me no evidence to support this claim that there's fraud or misconduct here, and yet they continue. And I can pretty well bet that in none of the so-called weaponized Trump cases was there a moment when a federal judge said, there is no evidence here, and yet the department continued it. So I guess the conclusion I draw from this is that there is fake weaponization, which is what you say when you're following somebody who has serious criminal liability, has been indicted, has been convicted, and you want to make all that go away with a narrative about, oh, that's just weaponization. And then you put your people in power, and what happens? The actual weaponization begins. And this counts, by my count, 7 red flags, any one of it which would have called a check to a case in the normal Department of Justice. So thank you, Adam. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Senator Whitehouse.